Destroy this for sure. Destroy the edifice so it can't neuter our Zakama. Then it's in our opponent's hands. They can try to Angel of Sanctions, but we can just kill it in response. That's not going to work out well for our opponent here. So they have 2 mana to stop the Zakama. Don't think it'll be able to happen. Stubhorn Sentry, not really where you want to be. Let's get rid of this. Our opponent agrees. So 5th win of the day, we get Encampment Keeper. Not a great card. Let's dive back in. Up against Spell Snare again. Opponent goes first, so our game is given away. We have our own edifice, which is pretty bad. No green mana. I guess this is an Ascend deck. Looking to close the game with Snubhorn Sentries, I guess. Opponent cycles Forsake. There's their edifice. That allows us to get a basic. Let's get black. And then we can either play Gift of Paradise or Our Promise, depending on how low the opponent taps out. Played the Bloodfast there because it looked like the New Horizons went down without any trouble, indicating that they didn't have a counter. We'll have 6 mana for next turn. We can mind Angel of Sanctions, so we can just Hour of Devastation. Hour of Devastation while they don't have any counters. Or we can Gift to Paradise into Hour. Am I counting this correctly? Let's hope so. And then if our opponent does nothing, we can hold up Mind and Bloodfast activations on their turn. It looks like they need a land of some sort. We have 3 deserts. We can get some rivulets or an arch and a field of ruin. And take care of their arch. And then end of their turn, we can draw 2 cards. They can embalm on the Bloodfast, but we'll still get cards out of it. Chupacabra is great. Let's get rid of their arch. Get swamp. And then we are up on card advantage against the blue opponent, which feels pretty good. That's pretty meaningless. So we're not under any pressure here, so let's just Bloodfast. And do it again. We can sack the Chupacabra if we need to. Those were all pretty bad hits. their sentry. Opponent has Ascend. Draw 3 cards. See if our opponent has a counter. Spell Swindle. That is a counter. So we're back up to 16. They have a 3/3, which is oddly annoying for us. But we can sack this for 2. Sure. If our opponent beats us with a 3/3, I'm going to be pretty upset. Scribe it. Our opponent has all the mana in the world, but they don't have any way to draw cards. This is a pretty grindy game. Cycle the Sensor, which is not going to be great anymore. Might have Essence Scatter stuck in their hand. They're waiting to use against our 1 creature. But if they don't put any more pressure, we can, even though they're at 36 cards, we will eventually mill them out with our Ipti Rivulet. River's Rebuke. Opponent is casting out Chupacabra. Great. Get rid of this. They have one card left. And, if we untap, we have everything we need. Back up to 21. Play the Bloodfast. The treasure map. And the turn. Glyph Keeper, sure. Using 2 cast outs on the Glyph Keeper here is pretty loose. We can cast out the cast out. Get a Chupacabra out of the deal. Probably right to their upkeep, but they have so much mana, we're not really tapping them down. We have 25 cards, they have 33. 1 card left. Might just be a land. Stop on our upkeep. Might be holding an Essence Scatter. Turn. They have 13 mana, 19 with treasures, 32 cards left. There's our Zakama, so we can Doomfall next turn, make sure it's clear. Just draw a card, try to get this over with. Golden Demise is a dead card in the matchup. So let's see if they have the Essence Scatter. Cancel. Sure. Let's tap all our mana. Slowly making our way through here. One activation at a time. And we don't even have to show the Zakama. They know what's up. I think that could have been the best bluff ever, but we really had it. They didn't know, but they didn't want to play the game. So we won. Crashing Tide. It's a card. We have 1,500 gold. Let's play a few more with the ramp deck and then switch over to something else on our grab bag day. Mr. Brinkenman. We go first. We have interaction on turn 2 or treasure map. Seems decent. The Star of Extinction is pretty much mulligan right now, but treasure map can get us to anything. Against Merfolk. Mana Speaker. So we'll have to pull this on the treasure map, I think. They play a Lord here, we can snipe it. And then next turn we can go treasure map into activation. another speaker. At least 5 damage next turn. It's not where I want to be, especially if they have Lord. Keeping the tap black source to wrath the board in 2 turns. Hopefully we're still kicking by then. That's... Can I cancel this? Thank you. Go to the main, play the land. So we take 6 here, go down to 10. But if they just play Kapala, we basically lock up the game. Our promise will be a good follow-up to the Golden Demise. Let's play a tap land. And then sweep the board. 4 for 1 feels pretty good. We can follow that up with our promise, get 2 zombies. And Chupacabra. We're looking good. We have 3 deserts. So let's get the Arch and the Black-Red land. Set our stop so we can draw a card end of turn. Our opponent has a Deep Root Waters, which will be something we have to deal with. Gotta get a land. So if we need to, the Star of Extinction can sweep away any of the tokens. So let's just plan on drawing a card end of their turn. Make them play into the sweeper, because they'll have to get around these zombies. Water Tap Weaver, sure. We can just Chupacabra that if we need to. Opponent might have it on summon. That would be the only interaction they could have at this moment. Hour of Devastation. Another Hour of Promise. So things are coming up Coming up one for the good guys. So Hour of Promise ramps us, gets us more zombies. Seems pretty good. I don't know if there's a wrong play that we can make right now. Get the Field of Ruin just in case. Opponent has the unsummon. That feels pretty bad against the token. They have another Water Trap Weaver. So we can plan on using this upcoming turn. Just clear the board. Block here, prevent damage. That's even better. Let's just remove all their permanents. Attack in with their one zombie. But our opponent has had enough, and we go on to win. 7th win of the day. It's us. Scaled Behemoth. A respectable card. This is a Snap Mulligan. Turn 1 Commune into Bloodfast. Excuse me. Or we can do Desert into Forest into Bloodfast. Moment of Craving is a matchup dependent card, so I don't want to scry that to the top without knowing what we have against looks like maybe an approach deck. Good decision. So let's get our Bloodfest going. Try to grind out some card advantage. Opponent goes for the end of turn opt. And then next turn we can play our swamp and have 2 activations of Bloodfast. We could play Gift of Paradise on a swamp here and have 1 activation up. Of course, always going for the basic land so they can't Field Ruin it. If they want to spend a counter here, it's fine. It's one less counter they'll have for the spells that really matter. Gain some life. Get free activation of the Bloodfast. Pass the turn. And our opponent has maybe another cycle at the end of turn. There goes the Desert of the Mindful. They have advantage of their own. Draw a card. Play Our Promise. That goes through immediately, it seems. You can get Arch of Araska and Field of Ruin. We should have got one more desert there because we only had 2. That was a misplay. Yeah. 3 cards in their library. Start off with Bloodfast. We have another Hour of Promise. So let's Arch, try to save some life. And get full value of the Hour of Promise again next turn. There's another Hour of Promise. They can either use a cancel or a negate. Decide to go for the cancel. Play our desert because we might have to win with a Ipnu Rivulet. We need deserts to sack. Discard a Binding. They have 7 mana. They can play the Approach. So we found a Rivulet. So now we entered the portion where we tried to mill into and over the Approach, unless they just have one of their own, a second copy, and they just win the game here, of course. Our opponent has 5 cards in front of the Approach. Start drawing some cards. Get rid of this Rivulet. So if they want to use it, they have to use it now. And of course, the Field of Ruin will shuffle their deck. So now they can flip the search and start looking for the approach with the Escanta. So that might not have been the best thing here. Just run with it. We draw some pretty dead cards for the matchup. Supreme Will looking for their approach. If they don't find it, they can, of course, flip the search. And then look for it with the Escanta. Reckons Gotham, thank you for following. Appreciate it greatly. And comes up right up against the second approach, so we might have helped our opponent out there. Not sure if we needed to use the Field of Ruin at that moment, but yeah, that might have been a mistake. Let's try our own explore or approach deck. Let's put this next in line, and then I'll go get another drink and be right back. All right, so let's jump into our blue-white control deck. We lost to Approach of the Second Sons, so I think it's only fair that we actually win by Approach of the Second Sons ourselves. Going up against Copper player, Bronze. Might be because we're on a losing streak, or they might be on a winning streak. We go first. We have turn 2, Search for Escanta, which is everything we want to be doing in life. Let's play Plains, try to hide what we're doing, or any value that we can get. Might be an Explore deck. So play River next turn. Start looking through our deck with Search for Escanta. Our opponent's going to be able to explore, start hitting us to Caravel, and then we can get rid of them with Baffling End, but only after we take a hit by the Caravel. We go down to 16. Take our land. And then we can Baffling End something next turn if we need to. Seeker Squire. Revealing the Wayfinder. Another Seeker Squire. We might be holding up Settle the Wreckage here. Getting in, going down to 11 all of a sudden. See what Search finds us. Cancel. It's too late for cancel. We find another. Definitely drawing 2 cancels in a row there would be pretty bad. They play Tishana's Wayfinder, get in with the team, and then we can settle the wreckage, then hold up cancel for the following turn. They do have 2 lands in hand, 3 unknown cards. There's the activation. See if they send in with everything here. I'll definitely settle if they send in with the Caravel. That's what they decide to do. So we can put the Baffling End on the Squire and still hold up cancel next turn. And we're 2 mana away from our approach. We have 2 cards in the deck, or in our graveyard. So Search for Escanta. It's not flipping anytime soon. Our opponent's really going deep on what cards to, on what lands to get out of their library. We need to hit our land drops for approach. Let's baffling end the biggest creature. Look to take 2 and cancel any relevant play they have. And scry into a land for our approach. We go down to 9. What does our opponent have? Doomfall. That we can't let happen. If they have another Doomfall, that's pretty bad as well. Censor is a dead card, so put it in graveyard. Draw tap land. But it'll give us the City's Blessing to draw a card end of their turn, go down to 7, and then up to 14 with approach, assuming they have nothing. Take 2. They must just have like Moments of Craving in their deck, or maybe a Chupacabra. Up to 14, look to cycle or use the Hieroglyphic Illumination on their turn. And Essence Scatter anything that we can. They have a Wild Growth Walker, but that's not the turn they want to play it. Tetsamok will be a beating. So pitch that, draw a card, and then we win next turn. We play the Rivulet, sack it to itself, and then win the game. They can get in for 9, unless they can pump their team somehow. So we take 9. That is fine. We don't need to Essence Scatter because we lose if our opponent gets another turn. So approach is our next card. We draw our approach. And then we first say good game, and then we win the game. Not as a BM move, of course, but just as a acknowledgement of the goodness of the game. Run it back. We go first against creature deck. This will be serviceable. Hopefully hit another land drop on turn 2 out of our deck so we can hold up Essence Scatter instead of having to opt end of their turn. Blue deck. This will be interesting. We can opt in Illumination. Try to find some interaction. Pouncer. So if we Essence Scatter this, it's still a ways away from being relevant. We're going to be greedy here. Opt into a land. So now we have a clear board, and next turn we can have Essence Getter or Supreme Will up. So play our land. Cycle while we can because we might have to use our mana next turn. So we can get in of the trials and hold up Essence Scatter. Goes right through because our opponent's probably not running a lot of interaction in their deck. They can play fifth land and then Eternalize, but we can just Gideon it or use Baffling End. All right. I believe this works. It does. So let's get in with Gideon.
It's just you and me.
Gideon is not our main win condition, but we will definitely take 4/4 beats any way we can take them. Our opponent has enough, and are we ranking up? Did blue-white control make us the golden gods that we are? Soul of the Rapids, not something I want. We are gold tier 2. Let's see if we can solidify ourselves in gold tier 2, or do we just drop down to gold tier 3 again? I'm feeling good about this. I want to try out Teferi and approach when Dominaria comes into the MTG Arena next week. Might be a little expensive, but you know, being able to untap lands for counter magic while having Planeswalker on the board seems great. Opponent's thinking it over. They might only have 2 lands, or they could be reading Reddit at the moment. Seems great. Play the tap land that doesn't cycle first. They play Wild Growth Walker. We will Baffling End it, because that can get out of control pretty quickly. Channeler Initiate. That will ramp our opponent, which is almost as bad. Or we could pull up Censor. Let's not be greedy. We can hold up Censor next turn while playing the Irrigated Farmlands if we need to. We have another Channeler Initiate. And the Essence Scatter makes us feel good about playing that Irrigated Farmland. Passing the turn, we can opt Censor or Essence Scatter. Wild Growth Walker. Say no to that. It might have another Wild Growth Walker or Explorer creature. And the third channeler. So they can have 6 mana next turn into Vraska, perhaps, but we can censor that. Or double opt. And still double opt. These channeler initiates won't be a problem for a while. Seeker Squire. Not really a big clock on us. Branch Walker. I might just bin that. So we don't even take one. They might be just using these end of turn to grow them. Let's opt into approach. Approach is how we win, but now we need lands for sure. That's good enough. We can still hold up cast out next turn. Play tap land first. And they use their initiates on the turn. So now they have 5 power on the board, but we have censor or cast out up. Do we get to censor Vraska? This is so they keep the channeler. Interesting. Let's try to be as mana efficient as possible. If we can't snag anything with censor on their turn, we'll cycle it. Hope to hit a land into our approach of the Second Sons. Which is our free win card. We just have to cast it twice. And the second one is the only one that has to resolve. We go down to 12. Our opponent plays Wild Growth Walker into nothing. Let's see what we hit off the censor first. Another land, so we can play approach, go up to 19. They have 5 power currently on the board. And then we're going to hold up settle after that, which seems where we want to be. Hieroglyphic illumination. If I had to give an over-under on win percentage, it'd have to be pretty high right now. In our favor. Daylight, so the Wild Growth Walker is going to grow, but we have settle up and cyclers into our win. It doesn't matter how much life our opponent gains. That's not relevant anymore. If we had another land, we could mill ourselves with the Rivulet. But we just have to see how our opponent attacks. They might have to send with everything because we have the win approaching, as it were. If they do, we get them with settle. And we still have cancel up. played around the settle. They play the Vizier. They do. So let's just cancel that. Hold up. Cast out next turn. And we can play the grindy game. Especially now that we have the baffling end. So we can draw 2 cards with the Hieroglyphic Illumination, cycle 1 with the cast out, and then come 1 card short. So Hyro, yep. Go down to 9 here. That's fine. We have to let that resolve. Draw 2 cards, hope to hit a land. We can't cycle into approach, but we can cast out anything that we need to. Our opponent needs a Field of Ruin to make a shuffle. So we can take 7 here, no problem. Would our opponent have any way to deal us damage? Most likely not in an Explore deck, but if they do, they do. We're at 2. If we untap, we win. That is an irrelevant card. Make sure we do this at the end step so they don't have a duress effect and take our win condition. And our opponent knows what's up, and we're getting closer to this gold tier 1. 10th win of the day gives us Red Wanderer. The zombie deck has been interesting, but in the current environment, vampires seem like the tribe to go in opposition to zombies, especially when they have a 2-mana lord, and the zombie lord is 3 mana. However, Hapatra and Nest of Scarabs is the token generation mechanism that you want to do. I believe this is a rematch. If so, that's unfortunate, because rematches in best of 1 is always a feel bad, because you're either set up well without the sideboard or you're not. Opponent's on the play. We have turn 1 Cycler into Baffling End into hopefully Gideon turn 3. Cast out turn 4. With these wonderful full art lands. These might be my lands of choice for the Dominaria pre-release that I'm going to Friday at midnight, tomorrow at midnight. Another Baffling End should be good against this opponent. Let's get our hand set up correctly. Which is our Merfolk Branchwalker reveal. Vraska's Contempt. To keep the Vraska's Contempt was interesting against our Gideon of the Trials. Let's just clear the board. They have a Vraska against our Gideon. So we'll not look to play this if we can help it. Carnage Tyrant. That's a lot of mana. They pitch it. If they had something like a Wild Growth Walker, they would have played it presumably before the Branchwalker or Seeker Squire. So getting rid of the Seeker Squire seems all right here. If we get to 5 mana, we can Gideon plus negate. But that's not really where we want to be. Liliana is something our negate deals is suited for, but do they have the lands in hand? They pitch the Carnage Tyrant. And they keep the Liliana. Will we play Search for Skanta for card advantage? We take 4. Do they have a land? Or are they being greedy? They do not. Already have a negate. So we can cast out their Jade Light Ranger this turn. They can't play the Liliana, and then we can negate the Liliana next turn. Only take 2, go down to 14. Wild Growth Walker. It's fine. We have 5 mana. They only have 3. We can Gideon plus negate.
Virtue will always triumph. I'm up for the challenge.
If they try to Vraska's Contempt, we can negate that. And then next turn, Supreme Will, if they manage to get up to Liliana. But if they want to do the dance of minusing 1 on Gideon, that will definitely be negated. We can Supreme Will here for a land. And then hold up Supreme Will. I think we can find a land in our top 3. Let's go for the Arch. And then plus on the Banewave Punisher. And then we have Essence Getter and Supreme Will up. We have 5 cards in our graveyard for Search, which needs 7. So they can Vraska's here, but we Supreme Will. And then hopefully search into a counter for Liliana next turn. Fine. Transform. Draw. We have a Settle.
No, I don't think so.
So if opponent draws a land for the turn and they play Liliana, we have to search for Escanta for a counter. Or else we need to find a cast out for next turn. Opponent's attacking with everything. We will let this happen. Post-combat land. Vizier. That's not something we want to have happen. So we Essence Scatter into a counter, hopefully. Censor is interesting because they can't play Liliana next turn. So let's just do this dance again of plussing on the Banewave Punisher, taking 1 from the Wildgrowth Walker. And then we can censor the Liliana if they want to try that, or we can search again. Sure. Rose the Wildgrowth Walker. So we can try to opt first, see what we find. If they draw land, they can play Liliana through the censor. We draw Approach. So what happens if we approach here? I think they'd be too greedy. So we use Gideon on the Wildgrowth Walker.
Not on my watch.
They attack in. settle. Clear the board for our eventual approach. And the sensor looks bad, so we can cycle that end of turn. Liliana should have cycled there, looking for a negate. Might have one left, I believe. No, we used to, so that's fine.
Stand down.
So our plan here is to beat this Carnage Tyrant by gaining 7 life and cycling into the win. We can cycle end of turn and then search for Escanta on the following turn. Hopefully that gets us far enough. We are at 21 life. Going down to opponent can attack the Carnage Tyrant at the Gideon. But we can ultimate the Gideon next turn.
Death is ever present.
Valueless Chupacabra. Cast out another Cycler, another Gideon. So we cycle. We can dig 3 with the Escanta. Or dig 4. So we cycle and then find the approach on their end step, and then we win.
You cannot win.
Sounds good to me. Carnage Tyrant at Gideon, so we're definitely not dying this turn. We take 6.
I'm sorry.
Make sure we put a stop on their end step. Doesn't matter what the Liliana does. Makes a zombie.
I prefer friends in lonely places.
They can have as many zombies as they want. Balderoth Walker, does not matter. End of turn. Cycle. Dusk. Interesting, but not relevant at the moment. Look at the top 4 cards of our library, find the approach. Untap, cast the approach, win the game. So we're solidifying ourselves in gold tier 2. 11th win of the day. And it's a rare. Another approach that's actually pretty good. Let's put that in our deck. See if it could fit in our deck. We're only playing 24 lands, so maybe we can bump that up to 26 for the MTGA algorithms. What would we cut? We could maybe cut a sensor. Hieroglyphic and illumination. Let's go down. Illumination, essence scatter, and opt. Then switch views. Go up island, plains, approach. Try it like this. We're on the draw. So we have opt, essence scatter, essence scatter. Go tap land first. Maybe vampires. Some sort of white control. There's our third opt. One might cycle a cast out end of turn. Renewed Faith, or maybe Drakehaven deck, which is something that I've wanted to do, but it costs a lot of rares. Looks like that might be it. Block. My turn. We skipped over end of turn. Opponent's going to cycle again. They were mousing over the lands like they wanted to. Let's put a stop end of turn so we can do this. Opt. Supreme Will, because we don't have a counter for their enchantment. Drakehaven, that's what I'm assuming at the moment. And then another opt. Sure. If it is a Drakehaven deck, these essence scatters are going to be dead cards. At least that's my understanding. But the Supreme Will is our only real counter at the moment. Seems like they want to cycle something end of turn. So they're going for opt. We will go for an opt. Binding. If it's a blue-white deck playing approach, binding won't be good. And if it's Drakehaven, we still have the counter, so we put that to the bottom. Cycle this. might do something on Incept, draw some cards of their own. They decide not to. Player tap land. Then we can cycle Censor end of turn and hold up Supreme Will. Our opponent has all the cards, but we don't know if they actually do anything yet. Baffling End, probably the worst draw in our deck. This is approach they can play it this turn. Here's our own approach. So let's just force the matter. It doesn't matter if this first one resolves. We just need to hit the second one. We can negate it. Negating the first one is better than negating the second one. And since we just got our third copy, we still have 2 left in our deck. They might be playing their own approach on their turn. So it might still be a Drakehaven deck. Player tap land. Baffling End is a mulligan. These Essence Scatters are close to mulligans. Supreme Will is getting close to worthless at the moment. Scry here. Hopefully we can impulse. Maybe end of turn if we need to. They have 4, 5, 6. They have City's Blessing now. We can play Baffling End and an island on our turn. They skip through their attack step, which is fine. We'll take that any time of the day. We get our City's Blessing of our own. We can cycle end of their turn and draw a card. We will eventually find another approach of the Second Sun if they don't put any more pressure on us. Scry before the cycle. Sounds like a combo. 8 cards in hand. Could be either cycling jank or relevant cards. search on like turn 7 or turn 10, fine. But they will get to flip it next turn. Are they worried about settle the wreckage? Is that why they're not attacking? Or hesitant to attack? We cycle first. Cast out. So let's try to cast out the search first Kanta. Because if that flips, it's going to be a bad time. Their hand might be full of stuff like Baffling End of their own. It doesn't seem like they have a counter for the cast out. They might have a cast out of their own to cast out my cast out. Field of Ruin gets rid of one of the arches. That's not really where we want to be, but we still want to play it in case they cast out our cast out. Then we can Field of Ruin their Escanta. So let's see if they have a cast out end of turn. They're looking over their mana. They're drawing a card. Sure. As it sits, we go down to 12 this next turn. But does our opponent have anything after this? They still have so many cards left in hand. And we have these 2 Essence Scatters, which are probably the worst cards other than Baffling End in our deck. Opponent's getting close to activating Arch Veraska twice a turn. Let's Arch first, see what happens. Not use that land. See what we draw. Hit new Rivulet. Let's get rid of one of these arches. Maybe they can tap down, use it in response, but they don't. We draw Gideon. They had 1 negate in at least 3 sensors, so they might have a cancel and another negate left. Let's see if they have anything. If they Arch of Roskin's response, they do not.
If you face me, you will only hurt yourself.
So you can plus Gideon on the Curator,
Not if
effectively stalling the game out in our favor. put an end stop on their end step so you can draw a card. Opponent has cast out on our cast out or on the Gideon. Let's see what they go for. Go for the Gideon, which is fine. We have more answers to the Curator in our deck than we do for a Escanta. Opponent skips over the attack step again, which is eight life that they've given us. So we draw a card. We play the approach. And then we have negate up plus Supreme Will. But the Supreme Will will probably not be relevant. Let's see how many counters they have. If they do counter this, we still have one left in our deck. Counter. We're holding counters. But because of our last win bonus, we do have another approach in our deck. So we're on a 2-turn clock now. They can feel it ruin our Archer Veraska. We have cast out. They have their own approach, which does effectively nothing unless they have another one. So if we cast out the Curator, they have to have their other approach or find it. They don't have a Rivulet at the moment. Maybe we should have done this on upkeep. But go for this now. Don't believe we have any negates left. We run 2, so we could Archer Vraska into They're going for the curator instead of the one with arch. Let's just draw now and see what we get. Get me rivulet. This is a post-combat approach that I will essence scatter that, but that's basically irrelevant. So we need to draw something here off the arch. We have a dusk. So let's see if their last card is a counter or if they can draw into a counter. If they have a counter, we lose. If they don't, we still might lose. So we lose. That was a tough one. Opponent playing a subpar approach deck, and we lose to it, which is not where we want to be. Let's see what this opponent offers. They will go first. We have no blue mana. So probably vampires or not. Cycle end of turn. During the attack step. Our opponent roping during our attack step. We would just like to pass the turn. We'll need this cancel more than we need the essence getter or baffling end. So we have Settle the Wreckage, Essence Scatter, and Baffling End in our hand, which are all dead cards. So let's use this here. Make sure we draw 2 cards. There's nothing on 5 that our opponent that we would be worried about canceling. And then we can hopefully cast out this search on their next turn. They have 5 mana now. Dust to Dawn, another card that's just horrible in this matchup. Card that's great against something like Carnage Tyrant, which is hexproof, but not great when your opponent is on blue-white control. Opponent will have a cancel here. Negate. So our opponent has all the card advantage. They can cycle Renewed Faith and all their cards. It's not looking good. If they flip this, we can Field to Ruin it, but not where we want to be. So our first approach isn't going to resolve, but we can hopefully try to get the next one through. If we went for the cancel there, they could have just essence scattered it in response. I'm sorry, censored it in response. Our opponent has all the cycling that they could ever want to do. We have cancel up if we need it, but they have censor at the ready.
Prepare to defend yourself. There is no shame in quitting.
So they have 3 cast outs that they can play from their graveyard. So casting out a Gideon is not going to be good for us. They do only have 26 cards in their deck. We might be able to mill them out. They try to get frisky with the Gideon. We might be able to get them with the settle.
Stand down.
Essence Scatter the Caracal. If we cast out the sarcophagus, we can still hold up cancel. Let's try that. They can censor in response, but we have enough mana to pay. If we get the sarcophagus off the board, it shuts off these cards in their graveyard. Lands moving around is really annoying.
weapons won't help you win.
Just prevent all damage from the Gideon.
I don't think so.
We can Field of Ruin the Escanta, end of turn. We can start milling our opponent out if we need to, but we can only do it for 12 at the moment.
Not if I can help it.
But our opponent has only 20 cards left, but they do have the Gideon emblem. They have another search. But this is going to happen eventually. Just force it now. Countervailing winds.
That's enough. So our opponent has 2 cards left in the library, 1 card left in the library. We'll have to find something to close out the game Not if I can help it.
quickly. After this next coming turn, they will have no new cards to see.
You hold
Hopefully
no
they're
power
stuck
over me.
with stuff like Baffling End in their hand. Maybe sacking the Ipni Revlets was a little aggressive there, but against the Gideon emblem and counter magic, we won't be getting approaches in.
They're with me.
but we do have 2 approaches left and multiple counter magic left in our deck, so we just have to draw into it. And our opponent has nothing left to do. What they have in their hand is what they have.
No trial is beyond my ability.
So if they can't win here, I don't know how they win.
You hold no power over me.
Let's draw 2 cards, or they spend a counter. Either way is good. There's our approach. So we just need a few more negates. We have 2 left in our deck. Let's look for one now. Cast out is a must cancel or must counter card. Because if they don't, they lose on their draw step. So here comes the counter. But that's one less counter for our approach. So that will eventually be forced through unless their hand is 6 negates, which is unlikely. Our opponent is fighting the good fight, but they've lost.
Not if I can help it.
Let's just show them that they've lost. Baffling End, which is a dead draw.
I don't think so.
End the turn. They could, of course, have no counters in their hand, but I don't want to run approach into a counter. So we're at this standoff where they have no cards in their library, but a Gideon emblem.
They're with me.
We should probably emblem the Gideon of our own, in case they have 2 approaches in hand somehow. That could be how we lose right here. If so, that would be greatly unfortunate. So they could go approach into approach. But no. Let's get the emblem.
The side of
Perhaps
justice
take a hit
will never lose.
from Gideon next turn. Again, we're not in a rush. We have 26 cards left. They've been sandbagging the land, which is all that they've ever needed.
No, I don't think so.
They have 1 approach in their graveyard. They might have 1 in hand.
Not if I can help it. And once we find a counter to back up this approach, I'll feel safe running it out there, but just not running it out there naked. That's not the place to be. So we'll cycle this desert at the end of the turn. They, of course, these are the only 5 cards that they'll have for the rest of the game. If they can't win right now, they're not winning anytime soon. Let's just tell them that it was a good game. Maybe they will concede.
That's enough.
They have not conceded. So let's cycle. Supreme Will.
You hold no power.
Hopefully this will find a negate at the end of the turn. And then we could try to jam our second approach. They would need like cast out into 2 approaches to win.
Not if I can help.
Something like that. Let's go for the cast out. They need to counter this or they lose. Draw step. Did we get there, or did they have a counter in their hand? They're tapping mana. So there's countervailing winds. Paying 28. I don't know if I want to pay 28, so I will cancel this. And go to my turn. See what we get off the opt. Farmland, no. Let's go. Ixalan's Binding. Did we finally get there? Binding on the Gideon, so they mill themselves out on their upkeep. Did they have another counter? They do not. Did we win? Did we win? Draw? And we won. We got there. It took like 5 turns off the emblem, but we got there. What do we get for reward? Minotaur Sure Shot. It's a card. Let's try to give it 5 seconds so we don't get the same opponent again, because that was a very long match. And let's run it back. We're up against an opponent whose name I could not pronounce, and we are on the draw. Into turn 2 Essence Scatter. Turn 4 Cast Out. Against a vampire opponent might be a little too slow, but we'll see how it gets there. Cycling and Cast Out, so it might be another blue-white control opponent. They might just need a land drop. Looks like they need a land drop. So we will Essence Scatter there was a little iffy. Don't want to take for a turn. Radiant Destiny with Sensor backup, but we can cast it out next turn and cycle at the end of the turn. So we go to 15, cycle. Get a binding. Binding on Radiant Destiny. Sounds pretty good. Opponent's probably missing their swamp. So if we binding on the Destiny here, how does this go wrong for us? They play a swamp and then play Legion Lieutenant, which we could cast out on the following turn. So at the most, we're taking 3 next turn, which doesn't seem too bad. Well, let's get rid of the Enchantment Lord. They can cycle again. Might have another cast out in their hand if they're cycling. Queen's Commission. So there's their swamp. Dust Legion. Not something we're afraid of. So we can cast out the Martyr here, take 1. And then they played around Settle the Wreckage last turn, so they might play around this turn. Looks like they are, so we go down to 10. And then we can Supreme Will something or cycle at the end of turn. Like we're cycling, so they might have Moment of Cravings in their hand. Draw 2. They might be stuck with Radiant Destinies. Get rid of the Shafet Dunes while we can, so we don't take 6 next turn. Thank you for the host, Riptide Pro Lab. Appreciate it. And then past the turn, they have 5 mana available. Let's do Ixalan's Binding, so we negate that. And then take 3. Legion Lieutenant. Supreme Will this. And then take 3. So they have 1 card left in hand, 3 power on the board. We can cycle into something next turn. We can cycle end step if we need to. We just take 3 here. They're again playing around. Settle the wreckage, so we only take 2. Let's just pass. We have another cast out. Let's see what we hit out the first one. Legion Lieutenant. Combat. Still playing around the settle the wreckage. But we can cast out the Legion Lieutenant. Hopefully draw something next turn or we lose. Thank you, Butthead, for the host as well. So does our opponent pay around settle the wreckage again? And instead of going for the win, we will only take 2. And then hopefully we can draw into this. We can draw into the win here. Draw into approach of the second sun. So we play our rivulet. Play approach. Resolve the spell. And then we can mill 4. End of turn. So we take here 3 here, down to 5. Oh, that's tough. So our opponent has been playing around settle the wreckage the whole game. Will they play around it again? They have 5 power on the board now. We have 5 life left. Let's go into full control mode to bluff that we have settled the wreckage. And they finally go for the kill, and we lose. That one stung a little, I will admit. They gave us a few extra turns, and we couldn't pull it off. But we still have life. We still have more wins to win. Up against Knight, gold rank 3. On the draw again. We have 2 blue and a colorless. Our first play is a turn 3 cancel. So we send it back. This looks better, but not great. Against mono red is going to be tough. We have turn 2 Baffling End, hopefully on something other than Firebrand. Goblin Trailblazer, that's a great target for the Baffling End. Let's go Plains into Baffling End on the Trailblazer. Then on turn 3, you can have Cancel up. We'll be taking at least 4 next turn. See what our opponent has. Firebrand, definitely not worth a cancel. Goblin Trailblazer. We could cancel this, take 1 from the Painland, and take 5. Go down to 8, and hopefully have Settle the Wreckage next turn. Or else opt into Essence Scatter. That doesn't sound good. So cancel on a Goblin Trailblazer, not the best, but mono red is mono red. Does our opponent play around Settle the Wreckage? Seems like they do. We're going down to 4. If they have Lightning Strike, we take Lethal. So we get off the opt. Negate. This is the best we can do. Negate the Lightning Strike, take 1 off the land. Go down to 1 if they sack their Firebrands. So our best case scenario is to cycle Illumination into Settle the Wreckage. Is that the best we can do? If they have another Lightning Strike in hand, that's game. Buccaneer doesn't change anything. We cycle into Settle here, and then we can try to stabilize somehow. We hit a Plains. So we tap 2 white and colorless, or at least attempt to. Bluff Settle the Wreckage. Instead, we just go down to gold tier 2. And then we hit play to try again. Against former president FDR, who is also gold rank 2. We go first this time. We have negate into cast out. If we can hit our 4th land. If we're up against another mono red opponent, this is pretty bad, but we can cycle cast out on turn 2. Our opponent has mulligan down to 5 at least. Do we win? We do not get a free win. So what is our opponent on? We don't have a turn three play, so let's hold up negate for turn 2. Might have a search for Escanta here, which will be great for negate. And this is why we held up the negate. We feel justified. Then we can play our irrigated farmland. Turn 2. Have negate up again. Dusk is going to be pretty bad. They have red as well, which is interesting. Baffling End, probably a dead card in the matchup. Pass the turn. Opponent can have 4 mana into nothing. We can cycle cast out here or cast Supreme Will. Cast out answers the Scarab God. Have another one just in case. So 2 cast out to negate. Feeling good about the first Scarab God. Six lands. Let's hit magic number 7 so we can win with Approach of the Second Sons. Opponent has not done anything in the game except failed to resolve a search for Escanta. Their hand might be just full of removal. We play our land for the turn. They might have like a Chupacabra, Moment of Craving, and Scarab God. Maybe a Magma Spray, Lightning Strike in their hand. Something like that. These Baffling Ends are going to be dead cards. So we're just using them as permanents to turn on our Arch of Araska. There's the Lightning Strike. We go down to 17, which is fine for us. They have 7 mana. We have Negate and Cast Out and Binding. There's the Scarab God. We can Cast Out plus Negate, or we can Ixalan's Binding plus Negate on our turn. Let's go for the Ixalan's binding. Because they waited until they had 2 mana up. So we can trade negates here. We have our own search. Here's the binding. You can negate it. I too have a negate. I will negate your negate. And then I will search for his Kanta. We have 4 cards in our graveyard. The cast out in our hand. Nicol Bolas. So we can pitch Baffling End and Dusk if we need to. They get... What do they get? What happened? They got a sensor. So they +2 Nicol Bolas and got a sensor, which is fine. Then we cast out their Bolas. Draw 2 cards at the end of the turn. We have a binding on the Scarab God. I doubt they're still holding a sensor. Pitch this, transform the search for Iskanta, draw a card for the turn, opt into a land. We find the island. We play the island. We go to the end of turn, put a stop on their end step, looking to cycle our sensor, and before that, cancel anything they play that is of relevance. Chupacabra. It's one of the things we thought they could be holding in their hand, along with Moments of Craving. It's great. We cycle. Use our search for Iskanta. So we take 2 down to 15, like 10th turn of the game here. Use Iskanta. Take Approach. Use Arch. Take Plains into Cancel. So Field of Ruin. Arch of Vraska. Plains. Go back up to 22. They might have a cancel, but we have 2 other approaches in our deck, so it doesn't really matter. We have Vraska, the Sunken Ruin, to find the approach if we need to. Or we can cancel anything they play that's of relevance. Champion of Wits. Sure. to draw 2 cards, but a lot of cards are dead. Bantu's Last Reckoning is good, but definitely not in this matchup when we don't have any creatures. Field of Ruin to get rid of the search. Take a Gideon for our troubles. We could put a Baffling End on the Champion of Wits, Gideon, the Ravenous Chupacabra. Just hold up counters until we win the game. We have Cast Out on their Bolus and Binding on a Scarab God. We take 2 down to 20, and our opponent's in a pretty bad shape. So Baffling and the Champion of Wits, they can't bring it back. If they counter this, we can still counter it and hold up Cancel, Negate. We can Supreme Will that. Does our opponent have Negate of their own? Another Negate? That's perfectly fine. They can have 1 card left and a Chupacabra any time of the week. Crack their Revolving Wilds. Go down to 18. Feels pretty good. Cycle now in case we get Approach of the Second Sons, but Gideon probably just as good. Play Gideon on the Chupacabra. If they have another counter, great.
Oketra, watch over me. That's enough.
Looks like Arena has shut down. So let's try to open this back up. We were in a dominant position there, so hopefully we can jump back into our game for the win. Arena is preparing assets. It appears our match has been found, so let's see if we can get back into it.
If it's a fight you want, then a fight you'll get.
counter their search because they can try to get counters of their own. Cycle our sensor. We have an essence scatter. Not enough mana to use the Arch of Vraska. Settle the wreckage. We still have what is it? 3 Approach of the Second Suns in our deck. And 20 cards. We're feeling pretty good.
They're with me.
Opponent has 2 cards in hand. Probably 1 land. At the most, 1 counter. After like a moment of craving in their hand. Liliana. That has to get negated. Do they have the counter? They do not. So we go back up. We rank up. Last match of the day. What is the last card reward of the day? It's a shatter. Maybe good against, I don't know. Not anything we're interested in. But 13 wins for the day. Feeling pretty good. We did, as a review, we did Approach decks today, Hapatra today, as well as Zakama. My favorite deck to play is Hapatra. Zakama, close second. Approach feels like a necessary evil to play control. I like card advantage, but it seems to drag out just a little too long, especially when you have an opponent with a Gideon emblem and no cards left in their library. You know, just concede. That's all. Just concede. But like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. If not, follow if you're on Twitch. Other than that, thank you again for watching. My name's Mike from Prolegomar Gaming, and I'll see you next time.